Hi, everyone. Welcome back to our second go round at the STEP workshop, which will be for the next 7 weeks after tonight. Tonight, we are doing steps 1 and 2. Steps 1, as read from Alcoholics Anonymous, is we admit it, we were powerless over alcohol and that our lives had become unmanageable. And you can insert your drug of choice. And then step 2 is came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. So we're going to get to our guest, but to briefly describe what are we admitting to and how that evolved, especially since the advent of Alcoholics Anonymous, we're admitting to having a substance use disorder. And the first thing to understand that at least AA even tried in the 30s was to come to this conclusion that drugs and alcohol do not cause addiction. And they did that with the limited language they had to describe it, and they were pretty good at it because it was successful for the next 80 years. But what they propose through a doctor's letter in the beginning, titled The Doctor's Opinion, Not a Theory, was a letter from Dr. William D. Silkworth stating that alcoholism is a disease. And he starts to describe it using the words disease and allergy, this manifestation of an allergy where you lose complete control over the intake of alcohol when you're drinking it. That's abnormal. And that you have this obsession that's beyond will or indulgence or anything that would resemble a normal mind. And A unpacks this and takes the first 4 chapters of that book to describe a condition that happens to us when we're sober. They stop talking about drinking. So you take the next 80 years of psychiatric research, clinical, neuroscience to unpack the complexity of this disorder. It's not magic. Brains that find a drug or an alcohol addiction are usually brains that receive trauma, and that might not just be an event. It could be a whole host of events that have happened to a person. It could be detachment, and it could be an attunement issue. And once you find alcohol, or if it's dopamine or an opioid release from your drug of choice, an addiction could be created pretty quickly. We know this to be factual now through the American Psychiatric Association, SAMHSA. So in step 1, for most people, if they're in a 30-day inpatient and a detox, this is the consideration in those 30 days, the steps 1 and 2. Do I have this disorder? Do I really believe it's going to kill me? It's fatal and progressive, and it's not solving my problem anymore. So there's this kind of salad bar. This is the problem, but I'm also making an admittance, if I'm going to be true to myself, that it solved my problem for so long. What I seemingly thought helped me, alcohol, marijuana, tripping, helped me when I was younger. To some degree, this has turned on me, and I can't think rationally. I might be a great lawyer, a writer, but when it comes to my drug of choice, I'm insane. And what insanity is, it's a legal term. It's not a psychiatric term. It means you don't know true from false. And AA took that specifically to be the first description of an alcoholic in their pages. Unlike most people, the alcoholic doesn't know true from false. And this is true with our drug of choice. And we're going to come to terms with this in steps 1 and 2. Do I have this disorder? And can I believe I could recover from it? And coming to believe might be joining a 12-step community, an NA, AA. I'm not claiming these are the only pathways to recovery. They're ones that work for me. And we find that with our alumni, being that we're a 12-step based principled community and institution. So I have the clock's ticking on these first 2 steps. Do I have this problem? Will I do anything to solve it? And that usually comes in the form, can I come to believe to trust someone else? Can I come to believe that someone can take me through the rest of the steps? These are the the decisions you're going to make in these first two steps. And I think we have a wonderful guest that is going to describe her personal experience with that from the misty mountains of Tennessee, now all the way from Louisiana. A quiet little applause for Ashley Duncan. Thank you, Ashley.
Hey guys, my name is Ashley Duncan. I am a peer recovery support specialist. I work at Avenues in Metairie, Louisiana. I'm the alumni coordinator for our Louisiana alumni programs. My sobriety date is November 27th of 2015. That's a date that I will never forget. It's a date that I hold on to for dear life. Um, a little short um, backstory. I started getting loaded. I started messing with drugs and alcohol really young. Um, and I never really stopped. Relapse isn't a part of my story because I never tried to stop. Um, I had to be removed from society completely to um, to get an idea of what sobriety looked like. Um, I am, like Joe said, from Tennessee. I came to New Orleans um, to continue my sobriety, to stay sober. And people are like, "Why did you go to New Orleans?" The great thing about it is, anytime you have an abundance of a substance in an area, you're also going to have a beautiful recovery community, and that's been true um, since I've gotten here. I I got sober through our criminal justice system. Uh, I was arrested and removed from society long enough to get enough clarity to realize that I wanted something different for myself. And really, that's where my journey began. I got a taste of what it felt like to help people and what it felt like to be sober. And for me, finding freedom within those walls, I knew the world was my oyster at that point. If I could find happiness and freedom behind the walls of a jail, then anything anything was possible. I I didn't work my first step. My story's a little different. I didn't work my first step until I had some sobriety under my belt. And for me personally, step one is my favorite step because it's for me it was a two-part step. One, has my life become unmanageable? What areas has my life become unmanageable? For me, it was everything: finances, relationships, motherhood. Every single aspect of my life was unmanageable. And was I powerless? Was I completely powerless over drugs and alcohol? I was an equal opportunity addict. I didn't discriminate. Um, it didn't matter. It didn't matter to me. My drug of choice was more, and the most of it I could possibly get. I So I knew that I was powerless, and I was also powerless over what was going to happen if I put any substance in my body. And so step one was vital for me, and I tell the patients and I tell my alumni all the time, hey guys, step one is literally the only one you have to work perfectly. That's it. Step one. It's okay if you messed up on your fourth step. It's okay if you don't make all your amends when you're supposed to. It's step one. That is the move. Because if we admit defeat and we admit that we're powerless and that our lives are unmanageable, then you know we can start from there. It was funny. I was talking to a friend before I came on here, and I was like, "Hey, do you want to give me any wisdom about a first step?" And he's like, "Yeah, I can do this really really quickly." I can't. And step two can be summed up as he can. And I thought that was really funny because it pretty much sums it up. Like, I can't do this. I can't continue my life going the way that I'm going. It is completely unmanageable. and I am unable to can. Um, so step one, I think, is also a daily thing. I know at 6.5 years sober that I'm still powerless, and I'm not willing to gamble with that. I don't have any reservations. It's not hard to not drink at a football game. It's not hard to not toast champagne at my wedding. Like, that wasn't a hard decision for me, because I know very quickly my life will become unmanageable, and I'm powerless over what happens next. And so step one's always been one of my favorites. Step one and step 10, because I think maybe those were the most difficult for me. Step one was difficult because I didn't want to admit that my life wasn't normal. And I didn't want to admit that I wasn't a great mom, and I wasn't a great coworker, and I wasn't those things, because I was not able to manage any aspect of my life. Joe?
Hi, Ashley. That was beautiful. And I think you summed it up pretty simply, and to look at what's right in front of you. I can't. And it's a humbling experience. The first admittance. I mean, if I could, I would have accomplished it already. And if it was easy and could be done by myself, I would have done it watching Netflix during all those nightmarish hangovers, waiting for some kind of motivation or will that was just going to rise up in me. And what? My life was going to change from just hiding in my house, waiting for this nightmare to end. But then I would get into treatment and there would be panic when I get around people. Oh my God, I got to talk about this. Do I have to talk about my finances? I just want to stop using cocaine and alcohol and things will get back to normal. None of
Right.
it was normal. And I think 30 days is just a little sliver of a start to see, wow, this is beyond my drug use. This is beyond my drinking. My brain has betrayed me.
Hmm.
I cannot will my even my own behavior. It's like an unsaddled horse and there's no bridle and I'm going 1,000 miles an hour and I cannot get off it. And that's me when I'm sober. Like that's
Right.
my mind when I'm
Right.
sober. So the desperation from that type of mind, I heard you speak to it. I relate deeply. And to take that pivot, if I could start to this act of humility comes from talking to someone. And I think people of our types, addicts and alcoholics, are easy. We can easily talk to someone on the level that I'm in treatment with. You know, I might be on the fence of trusting a clinician, and but when if I reach out to the guy I'm eating lunch with, it could begin right there. That's where
Absolutely.
sobriety begins. So I relate to that deeply, and that's the simplicity of step one. Now they say you practice it every day. Of course, it's this humility that I've had a position in my life that almost killed me. So things are gravy from this point. That's the beauty of step one, staying with you.
Hmm.
That's what's waiting for me if I give up taking care of myself. Step two is, can I trust another human being on this whole narrative?
Right. Step two, I really enjoy. I enjoy step two because a lot of people come in to avenues, or they come into the program of Alcoholics Anonymous or HA or CMA, it doesn't matter, and they really struggle with that higher power aspect. And I have this whole skit that I do with the patients where I get up and I'm really animated and I'm like, here, I'm going to move this table. And I struggle moving the table, right? Um, and then I ask other people to get up and stand up with me and help me move this table, 3 or 4 people, and we move it very easily. And I'm like, if you're struggling with a higher power, we can admit that a group of us together are stronger, right? So, like, if you can't get behind the Catholic beliefs or the Christian beliefs and the God aspect, if you can't get behind that, you can believe in this. And that's something that, like, I love to see the lights come on in a moment like that. They're like, wait, so I don't have to believe in God. No, you don't have to believe in God. You have to believe in something more powerful than yourself. And like we can agree that us together are more powerful. And that's, I've seen that work for a lot of people that really struggled with the God aspect and just could not get behind it and closed themselves off the moment it was mentioned.
Yeah.
And I don't care what you believe. I just want you to believe in something, right?
Ashley, what if I don't believe in God, but I do believe in the power of the Vatican? I'm just Josh, and I was one of those people. I was secular. I was an atheist, and I don't take issue with atheism. I had to review and take issue with my toxic resentments
Right.
against the history of humanity prior to me being here. This is how self-centered I am. I didn't approve of what happened on Earth before I was born. So, so let me just disregard anyone who mentions this stuff. That's how limited my thinking got from active alcoholism and addiction. Allows resentments like that to become completely irrational.
Right.
Takes my sense of humility and just true, honest curiosity. The steps will bring back to you. It robs you of that because to make the world safe in active addiction, arrogance has to replace curiosity. Fear has to be met with no, because it's uncomfortable to talk or admit you don't know something, meet new people. And by the time I was leaving step one, it got exciting again to think life would be interesting. I don't know what I'm doing. This means excitement's coming. I'm going to find relief. I'm going to confront my honest story.
Right.
That the power I like, it's in people, regardless of your faith. And this is how powerful the practice of the steps are. Your God could be Jesus, you could be a Buddha, it could be Xenu or Thor. If you work the steps, each one of you could work the steps in the same kind of methodical way, and you'll get the same result. You can recover from addiction through a personality change. Now,
And
what that power is up to you.
how beautiful is it that so many people with so many different beliefs can sit in a room in harmony?
Yeah,
Where else in the world can you find that?
not many places,
That is
not at all.
beautiful to me. I like, you can sit in a room with people with all different religious beliefs, socioeconomic backgrounds, with all these different aspects, look different, sound different, but we all have one common solution, right?
Yeah,
And that's a beautiful thing.
that that saved my life. My sponsor says, I don't care what you believe in. Can you work the next step? Will you tell me? And I did. I was cynical. I've been around AA a long time, and I was toxic and cynical. I'd sit in a meeting and look for distinctions of why I shouldn't be there. When every single person in that room, the people I even thought didn't like me, would do anything to help me not drink that day.
Mm,
That's what I was missing. After years of going to AA, I got so cynical. I couldn't even see the basic truth that there was a room full of people that would help Joe.
yeah.
It's crazy. It's crazy. I'm glad I got to wake up from that. And that's the other half of our title is our being asleep. And I am asleep because I've stopped taking the risk of letting people in my life or feeling any kind of emotion that could attach me to something. I've been hurt so bad. So we're always questioning the use. How much do you use? Well, did you use every day? That's the boring stuff once we're past that detox. Who
Mhm.
hurt you? Why are you so hurt? Why are you hurting others? Now, this is where addiction, you start to tell the narrative of what addiction is for me.
So I think I've been the exact opposite.
Yeah.
I've spent so much time closed off and not feeling anything, um, that once I got sober and I got a taste, like I love so big. I don't know how to not love big. And yeah, I get my little heart hurt sometimes, but like I want to love people until they can love themselves. And that's kind of like my personal mission statement. Like I'm gonna love you through this, even when you don't want me to. And it's work and it's AA and it's the grocery store. I don't care. So like I didn't really have that struggle of closing people off. I am a social butterfly, and
Yeah.
I'm like, people, let me have them.
I'm a bald old pirate. When did that when did the pivot happen in recovery for you? Was it around step 2? Like when you were going to a lot of meetings? What did that look like every day?
I'll just be honest. It was prison.
Yeah.
It was prison for me. There were women in there that needed help, and I was in a position where I could at least speak life over them or help them study or help them read. And so getting a taste of helping another woman, um, it set something off in me, and I've been nonstop since then. You know, um, when I got out and I did start working the steps, I drug my feet for a while on
Yeah.
4,
Yeah.
and
It's common.
and I'm lucky that I got a sponsor that was like, no, we're not doing this. We're not going to do this
Yeah.
because you need to be helping other women. And she was like, you got 2 weeks to get it done.
Ashley, how long ago was that?
What?
Like that experience of the first step. Leave how many years ago was it?
Um, 5.
5 years. And what does a day like that today look like? Because that hasn't changed. That operation mission of helping others.
Oh
What is
no.
it?
If anything, it's expanded.
Yeah.
You know, if anything, it's expanded more degrees than I thought was possible. Like my life today, I can remember in early sobriety dreaming up what I thought life would look like. And boy, did I sell myself short.
Yeah.
Um, you know, but today, I want to show up for people. And, I tell people that are sitting in my office when I'm doing an intake assessment, they're like, lady, what do you know about sobriety? I'm like, funny you should ask. But I tell them, I'm like, the difference between me and you is one thing. Like, I am 5 bad decisions away from a relapse. You're one.
Yeah.
I got to put some real work into it to mess up my life at this point. So
Yeah.
give yourself the time, you know, and and give yourself a chance.
Yeah. Relapse does take work. Um, in the hard way. I didn't even see it coming. But I'm really glad you got to come on and share a lot of that. Ashley Duncan, if you're just coming in, she's our alumni coordinator in Louisiana. And she got to share on steps 1 and 2. The next half of this hour, we like to take questions and we'll field them on steps 1 and 2. If you're struggling with these ideas, are you struggling with finding a sponsor? This is the time to reach out. We'll be meeting the next 8 weeks for any alumni. If we could give you guidance through the steps, resources you feel you might not be receiving. And we also have to put a plug in for hammock readings. And if you're not getting daily hammock readings, it's a nice way to start your day with an intention, especially if you're driving. You can get it on Alexa, and it's a daily reading. And we mix it up from just for today with NA, AA daily reflections, poetry on Fridays from our executive director at Lake Ariel, Kiva Stern. Sometimes there'll be romantic poems in there from Rumi. It's just a nice way to ground the day with an intention to be considerate for others. Well, let's see if we have any questions, Ashley, out there. I'm going to field through a couple of them. Hi, Dalton.
Hey, Dalton.
Your crew's here.
They have a tendency to show up.
Louisiana's awesome. You guys seem like a tight community.
We're more than a community, Joe. We're
Yeah.
a family. And I'm just super grateful to get to be a part of it. To watch them grow and watch them celebrate those little victories up to the big victories. And our alumni program, man, just watch out.
Hey, Peter. Okay, we got a question, Ashley. I'll read it to you from Lisa. If you can't believe in anything else, believe in yourself and others that want sobriety for you as much as you need it for yourself. Oh, well, thank you, Lisa. There's a man, Russ,
The
trying to find
plug.
the questions, just clicking down.
So, okay, I'll prompt some questions.
Yeah,
If people aren't having or don't have any questions, um, what about some higher power struggles? What have those looked like? How have you worked through those, or what questions do you have about a higher power?
I'm glad you asked me, Ashley. I have a lot. Yeah, that could take up a whole meeting, and it's usually I feel grateful to be from Scranton. A's kind of strong here, and that could take an hour of a question. But people are kind, very open to that idea when I'm at meetings around here. Avenues Angel. Um, the interesting thing about Alcoholics Anonymous when it comes to the power greater than yourselves, that there are things that aren't confusing. And I could hear sometimes confusion of people. I don't know what God's will is. That might be true if you're Judeo-Christian, you have this idea. But if you read the book or like the narrative in Narcotics Anonymous, his will's set out, or the idea of will. It's not God or the idea of the power greater than yourselves. This will that we want to take on is helping others. And it's clear. It's not for interpretation. This is the will we want to achieve. Thoughts and consideration and intense work, it says, with other addicts and alcoholics. So this will could be achieved at step 12 if I go through all the steps. They also I find this awesome because it's an old spiritual idea. They tell you where you will find this power. They do not hedge that at all.
Right.
They tell you exactly where you'll find the power. You'll find that great reality, they capitalize it, deep within you. So if this divinity, this power, this immersive, this authentic self that's never been able to be me because of an ego, trauma, addiction, this starts to awake. This is the spiritual awakening. Your real personality is waking up. And what would a real balanced personality want being a mammal? Love and kindness to others. So
Right.
if that's in me, it's in the guy that's helping me get to this position. It's going to be in the people that I find are hurt or angry at meetings or hard to tolerate. They have to find that in them. I know that's in them. And it really creates an open idea of tolerance, that we don't look at each other with smug ideas or upset. We're sick and we can help other people once we've recovered for this. I don't see any. Oof. We got a shy audience tonight.
Hey, Shane. So, um, bouncing off what you said, Joe, I kind of look at it like this. I got plucked out of the situation, I got cleaned off and I got sent right back.
Yeah.
And I love that. If I had to walk through all those years of pain and all those years of addiction to help people, like, worth it.
Yeah.
100% worth it.
Now it's worth it. You made it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I'm going back and bringing people with me.
Yeah. Oh, we got it. Peter. Hi, Peter. It's good to see you, man. I'm having issues staying connected. And I get good clean time, then I relapse for a day or two, and I'll stop and get more good time. But it's a cycle. I can't find the motivation to stay involved with AA.
So maybe AA isn't your scene. Try something else. Try another A. Um, you know, there's I don't know you, Peter. I don't know if you're a part of alumni, but, like, get connected there. I see amazing things happen. We have people that come to our meeting that don't go to AA. Like, I really don't care as long as you're connected. You're connected with something. And take a look at step 1 again.
Yeah, and it's a complexity. Sometimes in fundamentalist AA, you'd be dressed down. That's not this time. But what you're seeing is a pattern towards longer sobriety if you make the commitment, and that's a small window, because you could easily go back to daily use. But I had the good fortune to meet Pete. And Pete, I had a similar scenario until I was completely done. I was completely surrendered. And that what that looked like, so it's not untangible. It was going to 2 meetings a day, regardless of how I felt or how tired I was. I could get to 2 meetings. The rest of my day might be a disaster, but I'll just call this early sobriety. And if I didn't share, very few people reach out to you, especially in the city or Long Island or Staten Island. Start announcing that you're in the room. Take the risk. What's the worst that's going to happen? You relapse. And this is how you'll feel through steps 1 and 2. And before you know it, if you could get 3 or 4 months, you might have to buy a notebook and a pen and start writing an inventory. But if you need anything, you could always reach out to us at Lake Ariel, Pete. There's nothing I wouldn't do. Hi, Jay. I don't have a God of my understanding. I have a God of my misunderstanding. I agree. Because better people than me have tried to explain God and failed. So I don't claim to understand. I don't worry about trying to know who or what God is. I simply put my trust in a power greater than myself, and it's worked so far. I like that sentiment, Jay, and that's. I have a lot of gods I do understand, but they weren't the gods that were going to be part of my recovery by any means. And I think you have a great message there for a growing number of people that are secular and sometimes don't feel comfortable wanting to unpack that in an A meeting because it might come off as hostile or a troublemaker or you haven't surrendered. And, it's duty of most secular people like us that's the guy I should be talking to after the meeting. I get you, man. It's okay. You could work the steps. Just here we oh. Jen, deepest condolences. The love of my life just passed away Sunday. I know without a doubt that my higher power is carrying me through this pain right now. I'm able to stay clean and process the feelings in a healthy way.
So, Jen, I urge you to reach out to your women. Yeah, your higher power is carrying you, but so will your women. And just reach out to them. It's okay to call the women in your circle and have good days and have bad days. And I would urge you to reach out to a therapist and try to maybe get some grief counseling and process this. I'm so glad that you're sober for this and you can process it instead of burying it.
Thanks, Ashley. Jen, yeah, definitely reach out. Take all the support you can get, even if you're having a good day.
I'll message you on Facebook, Jen.
Hi, Lisa. Lisa, I read my Bible daily. I was brought up Baptist, but I just felt that spiritual connection when I made 1 year last week. It was like, thank you, Jesus. I am in awe. It's the first time I've been sober in 44 years. Wow. That sounds beautiful, Lisa.
We're really proud of Miss Lisa. She's one of mine.
She came to all 8 weeks. I feel like I know her just from the picture.
Yeah. Miss Lisa drives a very long way to come to alumni, and she still shows up.
Hi, Brian. Powerlessness seems to create resentments and a confrontation. How does one balance the notion of powerlessness and maintain healthy assertiveness and boundaries when there is an issue between you and another person?
Joe, you're probably better at boundaries.
I like it, and there's a context to power. We're not powerless. We're powerless over obsession, addiction, an eighth of a second from my reward center telling me my rational brain it's not. We don't need you. Go down the street, drink, get high today. That's the first powerlessness we're confronting, and that's under a microscope. What's coming after that is what we call power. And it starts to arrive at step 10 and 11, that my conscious mind is now coming back to a place I might be able to trust. And I'm also possibly meditating. And what I'm seeing is this expansion of time of that eighth of a second when I'm angry or depressed or sentiment just washing over me. I could let this thought pass because I could consider others. So it's tough. There is an assertiveness if you're being harmed or receiving trauma, but there's also a power where I don't have to be I don't personalize someone hurting me. I see them as sick. And there's some strict rules in old classic AA. We never criticize someone else when we're making amends or confrontation. They're not brought up because we've tapped into power. And I'm less sensitive. Now I'm really just concerned about the person that may be trying to hurt me. And can I be helpful? Maybe I can't. I don't know the intimacy of the relationship, but we're talking, that could get complex then. But you will have tapped into a power if you get to step 10, and you can start making healthy and sound decisions. And you're not afraid to call people that you trust now, maybe 4 or 5 guys. Hey, I was thinking of doing this as an amends, or confronting someone about this. You don't do that alone anymore. Even in long-term sobriety, I'm constantly seeking counsel on these things, and that's power. Oh, that's good to hear. Thanks, Jen. Nico. Words can't explain how much this woman means to me. I can't tell you how many times she has picked me up, saved my life. Ashley is the true definition of what AA is. Thank you. Love you. Wow. That's very kind. Thank you, Nico.
Trying not to cry on TV.
Yeah. Well, doing this over the 8 weeks, we're still kicking around some ideas, maybe even in the summer, of having 2-hour workshops. And if you guys have thoughts, please send them to your alumni coordinator or Facebook. Some of the proposed ideas right now would be a workshop, maybe a 2-hour workshop on a weekend on grief, grief and sobriety, loss and sobriety. Another workshop, dating in recovery, dating apps, and how do I not act like a psychopath online now that I'm sober.
Can we just not do dating in recovery? The first year, none of it.
Yeah, erase. But I think there's a complexity there where you could get really well after a year, and then that weird shame and uncomfortable feelings come back when you're maybe even dating someone outside of the program, or these things happen, especially in younger people in sobriety. I think that would be maybe a good workshop. We could all kind of just support each other. Do it. How do we do this honestly, truthfully, and authentically?
Some parenting advice, I think, would be a good one too.
Parenting advice, and another one was career changes. You got a criminal record, broken resume. What are the resources in your area, and what can we talk about, and how can we help? Make sure you can find not only just employment, but how would you start to get the guts to say, I'm going towards a career?
Yeah.
If you have to start over. Hey, Pat. Thanks, Pat. Nick Soriano. This woman has enhanced my life in so many ways. I thank God every day for her. Watching her grow up and help so many people is an honor to be a part of. Wow.
It's my husband, for the record. That's my husband.
Well, you got a good man. That's
Full
great.
disclosure, a lot of this stuff I tell my patients and alumni I steal from him because he's in the program. So
Nick, you have to come back on with like 6 other profiles and just and just keep saying, what can
Please
I
don't.
say about Ashley?
So hot.
That's great. Yes, all of those are great suggestions. Common struggles in the first year. Thanks, Leslie. Thanks for coming on. Akiva, Joe Van Wee. You know, Alcoholics Anonymous, right? And I'm not into not, but for about 25 years of going in and out of meetings, everyone said my full name.
You're
I wasn't
the
Joe
government.
V. Everyone's like, "There's Joe Van Wee." Like, what are you? I just walked in here. Joe Van Wee is the admission of powerlessness dependent upon sharing that with others repeatedly. I'm finding that I can admit to powerlessness to myself in some areas, but it doesn't seem to carry the punch of a proper first step. And I'm wondering how much of this group share playing is a role in that. I think it's enormous. I've heard modern sentiments. I don't call yourself an alcoholic and an addict. I've seen like weird infomercials of whatever new recovery, and I was curious. I was looking at it, but I think what you're not doing is acknowledging the alcoholic did not disappear. Like, hi, I'm Joe. I'm an alcoholic. There's a werewolf in there waiting for me to not take care of trauma, resentment, uncomfortable, depression, not making amends, and letting mood swings and my grosser handicaps maybe take half a day away, not apologize to my wife right away, wait 3 days until she's like, this is crazy. This is addiction. So when I go and I say I'm an alcoholic and I'm an addict, I think there's a humility, and it sounds like noise after a while, but once in a while, if you do it enough, there's a repetition happening. I'm acknowledging that condition. That condition won't go away if I don't take care of myself. I was sober 14 years, and I relapsed, and it took work. I'm glad you mentioned that, Ashley. It took a couple years of bad behavior, unreconciled behavior that turned inward to self-centeredness and self-pity and resentment. And the story started again that I'm a victim of some universe plotting against me. Only if the yada yada. And then shame kind of showed back up and back of my spine when I'd be out. And it wasn't long where I thought maybe I could drink. Maybe I was just mentally ill when I was younger. I wasn't drinking the right way. So I do. I find that from my personal experience, the admittance of that is a humility. It's part of the identity I want. I've overcome this through the help of others. Their power helped me, and now I'm obliged to carry this on to someone else.
Yeah, I can remember when I had that shift, Joe, from victim. I played the victim really well. I did grow up in a home with addict parents, and you know, I played the victim really well for a really long time. And that moment when it switched from victim to victor, and that was a beautiful thing for me. One of the greatest gifts that sobriety has given me is teaching me who I am as a woman, and like I don't waver on those things. Before, somebody could ask me what my favorite color was, and it was subjective to what I thought you wanted it to be.
Yeah.
And like, to know who I am today, and not be a victim and take responsibility for my actions and in my past is a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful thing.
I don't know what it is about the condition of, especially an active addiction, where this narrative just overwhelms me. I can't even challenge it where I'm the victim.
Right.
I've caused all this mayhem in my life, but only if someone else did something else, it would have all changed. Or it's this inability to take responsibility over what a crisis my mind's in. And the only relief, especially if you get to late stage addiction, is why wouldn't you drink? It's a constant panic up there in
Mm-hmm.
your mind. Um, I don't want to feel that way again. And that's a fine line. I think you see transition of steps 4, 5, 6, and 7 for certain people, with trauma. They're not saying you're taking ownership over your life. You may have been the victim. You're the victim of a birth. You're born into a world that's bizarre, and you emerge in this maybe with some hurt feelings that could cause this condition. But the confrontation of it is the power to say, I'm not going to let this story be the future, and tapping into that power when I do the 5th step from this point. But I always find that interesting, that the same scenario just changes my role in it, as a victim to, I'm going to put a saddle on this. I was responsible for this. And then if I'm responsible for the past, I didn't live the way I wanted to live, I could do something different in the future. There's hope for serious change in how I think and behave. That doesn't sound like sobriety. Like if being sober was the answer, it sounded excruciating. Like I was like, I'm never gonna make this. Do you know what's going on in here? Like I can't be on cocaine. I can't even think without it. Like, what are you,
Right.
nuts?
I never believed in a million years that I could get up and go to work and hold a job and have responsibilities without a substance. I couldn't even do my dishes. I couldn't even do my dishes without my substance. Um, you know, and do I still have bad days? Of course I still have bad days. I'm still crazy. I just have really good coping skills.
Thanks, Akiva. Yeah, I do for me. I think it works for me. It works for the people that helped me get sober, kind of cut from the same cloth. And I don't find it defeating to say I'm an alcoholic. It's acknowledging that there's a part of me that will self-destruct if I don't nourish the fourth dimensional and existential parts of me. I need meaning. And that saying I'm an alcoholic, I think that's what it feels like today when I say it. I am an alcoholic. Thanks for bringing that up. Ashley, yes, girl, that's one of my favorite parts of sobriety. Ashley, you came with a crew. You guys, you have a flourishing. Hello, my people. Hi, Brooke. Hi, Nick. Ah! All right.
Oh, Logan, I'm so glad you're on here. So, Joe, that's Louisiana for, hey, Logan.
So I think if we can, we start to organize these ideas of what happened over the last hour. I think avenues, I know you guys do. I know Lake Ariel and PHP Bucks really has a clear definition of substance use disorder, of drugs, alcohol, heroin, crystal meth. Drugs and alcohol don't cause the condition. It may seem that way, but they're a failed solution to a much deeper problem, causes and conditions. So I'm admitting I have this. It's progressive. I have an abnormal tolerance because of what it does to me, the reward in dopamine and my opioid system of what's happening. This is unusual, but it's giving me a serious benefit, making life somewhat tolerable, regardless of the consequences it could cause to my finances, my family, my employment, my education. It seems like the trade-off's all right. And until it starts getting worse, and I still can't stop. This is a serious problem. This will kill most people that have it. So I'm admitting to that part, and that my life's unmanageable. This could be systemic everywhere, and I'm not willing to ask for help in all kinds of problems, legal matters, financial, because of the shame of addiction brings to you. Step 2, can I get involved in a community? Can I trust one of the person, maybe two? Can I start making friends that I believe have the same condition and they seem pretty sane. They seem fairly happy. They're enjoying life. How did they do it? And if it's a 12-step community, it's working the steps. It's working the steps and making a friend there. For some, it could look like getting a therapy and working the steps, having a clinician in your life. There is no carved path. Give yourself a wide room and trust that you really want to get sober.
I totally agree with that. AA even states we are not the monopoly.
Mm.
And I think recovery looks different. You know, it should look different for each person. I know Avenues alumni, you know, our main objective is to make sure everybody's connected. Like, and do we get homework? Give him homework.
I do. The homework this week is to find the second step prayer, and whoever can answer it next week gets a free detox. Okay. Sorry.
Come on, we could throw swag or something at him.
Tomorrow, yeah, we can throw in. I know where the hoodies are at Lake Ariel.
I know where the hoodies are here.
Find the second step prayer, and first person to put it in the comment section next week. We're going to be talking about steps 3, and put it in there, and you will get the nicest hoodie Pennsylvania offers.
Oh.
And we got a plug here. Winter Hammock Readings is launching. So we were behind waiting for snow in Pennsylvania. We shot it a couple weeks ago. We're on season 3 of Hammock Readings, and they're kind of evergreen videos. You can find the playlist on YouTube's Avenues YouTube, our Facebook, or you could go to the website and sign up for a daily email with them. And it's 1 to 3 minute videos that give a thought, an intention, a reading, a prayer. Sometimes there are meditative exercise you can follow, or poetry. If you think you would enjoy that, please sign up. And the new scenes, winter scenes, start tomorrow. Ashley Nicole, one of my professors, was discussing the need to have purpose in any capacity in order to get sober, whatever that looks like for people. Do that. Agreed, Ashley. Thank you. Yes, homework, please. Peace. It'll fit you. I think you asked me for an extra large, or when you were asking me for a sweatshirt, it took me a week to get it down in the IT room and finally get the right one. Wait. Pete, it's really good to see you, man. I'm glad you're on here.
Uh-oh. Extra swag.
So, Brooke, parting ideas for alumni. Here. I want to thank you for coming on. It wasn't that bad, right?
What, me?
Yeah.
No, it wasn't that bad at all.
Yeah.
I cannot wait to pick up my phone because it's been buzzing the whole time.
Yeah.
And read what. No, but it wasn't bad at all. I mean, you take ego out of it, it's no big deal.
Yeah.
So it was fun. I will say, if you haven't went and liked the main Avenues Find Your Way homepage and followed, please do that. Very important to go do that.
I think that's a great parting sentiment, Nick. Nick, it doesn't matter what I think or feel. It matters what I do and work the steps honestly. And I think that's the beginning of this process. We summed up tonight, and Ashley did a beautiful job. It's not always what we believe in the beginning. It's just taking the risk to act, put one foot in front of the other. We don't have to be our thoughts. They can change. And with enough support in a 12-step community, you can take actions that you might not even believe in yet, but you'll have the support to do it. It will change the way you feel and the way you think.
Yes.
And before you know it, you'll be taking care of other people. That would be the goal. Guys, I think we're winding down. If anyone needs to reach out to us, please find us on Facebook or YouTube or reach out to your alumni coordinator. Next week, we're going to do step 3. We have another special guest that is coming from, I believe, New Hampshire.
Ooh.
Yeah, how about that? Guys, it's great seeing you, and we're glad you all came tonight. Talk to you next week. Ashley, thank you again.
Thanks.